Welcome to channel where we make your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested in migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once you have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Alright, today I'd like to update some of the visa processing priority in regards to the student visa applications. So a few days ago, there has been a publish from the so-called PRISM from the Department of Education, basically stating out how the government counting onwards on the numbers of the COE, so-called the confirmation enrollment, counting towards the specific providers quota. Remember, back then, although the cap on international student legislation did not go through, however, there has been a so-called de facto cap that the government of Australia, the Department of Home Affairs, also the Department of Education, together had formed some sort of policy. They call it Direction No. And that actually enforces the restrictions on numbers of student intakes for every education institutions in Australia. Now that doesn't count towards those vet courses provided that had been going under, because the Department of Education is also checking on a lot of these so-called ghost colleges where they ungenuinely offer courses in order for people to actually stay and not really delivering quality educations. So that's not in the deal, but we're talking about this. Let's jump in there to have a look at this one. So this is directly from Department of Education. You see that on the top right corner is that PRISOMS. So I'm sorry, it's not prison. It sounds like a prison, isn't it? It sounds like you're going to jail, but it's a system that the education department had connected to the immigration. So the immigration will know whether or not the international student has the actual enrollment, so they can count the numbers. This system has been there for 20-30 years. All right, so the fact sheet here is basically talk about students deferral, suspension, and cancellation. So how would that actually count towards the numbers of student intake from institution? It's more for the institution rather than viewers like you. But why am I doing this video? Because it's vital. That means if the education institution were to give an offer, they are counting very specifically. They're not gonna be like back in 2024 and back in 2023 in the past, where a lot of students is coming in, putting their admission application, and university or colleges will just send out offers straight away. They will be scrutinizing every single applicant because they are now currently in 2025 counting towards their quota. And that's exactly how the Australian government is going to control the intake and the influx of international students. So department had received a large number of queries relating to the new Overseas Student Commencements in case of student deferral, suspension, and cancellation. So basically it's telling you, if a student has been suspended, cancelled, does that count towards the actual quota that they are actually being given. So basically from here, definition of NOSC in 2025 is that the student commences studies, all right, and does not fall under any exemptions. Now exemptions, well, if we go into exemptions down here, it's basically for student that's going into the school sector, research, PhD, or the government sponsored program. All right, and then the COE does not meet the continuing student exemption criteria. So if it's going to be continuing, for example, you started your courses back in 2024 and you had deferred because of whatever the personal or family issues, and you got a renewed COE in 2025, then that will not be counted towards the quota for that specific education institution. So that's basically it. It's quite reasonable. I'm not too sure why a lot of people had query in regards to this. So if it's continuing students, no, there's not going to be count towards that numbers of quota to be given to that specific institutions. So continuing student exception, there's a little bit of the explanation there. I think it's pretty straightforward. As long as you are the existing student, continuing where there was a deferral or perhaps suspension, that's bad. I don't want student to actually have suspension. So scenario 1, here we go. Okay, defer student not actual study in 2024. A student did not undertake actual study in 2024 and 2025 defer suspended COE and they recommence in COE. Then that counts as a NOSC. So what does that mean? That means if that person is not a continuing student, they basically defer. They did not even commence the first day of uni or whatever the course that program that is, and then they defer until 2020. That will count towards NOSC. So that's going to be a new quota being taken out. So this kind of students, I think the university will not likely to take them anymore. Probably will cancel their COE because showing that it's a genuine student. Probably, I'm not too sure. Okay, scenario 2, defer student with study period less than 10%. So a student did not undertake actual study in 2024-25 and defer suspended COE, but study or less than 10% of the total COE courses duration defer or suspended COE will then recommence the COE in 2000 count as NOSC. So again, that basically meant the student basically study. I'm not too sure how they can calculate 10%. One subject perhaps. I'm not too sure how that will be counted, but anyhow, that still show that the student is not genuine, isn't it? It's not really going there student. Okay, scenario 3, it says defer student with study period more than 10%. So then that will not be counted towards. So that means they actually study something. So if they study, for example, 1 semester, and then they had personal or family issues, so they put on deferral. So the original COE suspended or cancelled, and they renew another COE and coming back for the semesters after the one next to it. Then that will not count because that then show the student is a genuine student, isn't it? So all of this is talking about how genuine student that is. So cancellation. All right, if a student commences a study for a COE and the COE is cancelled, then that COE will count as as 1 quarter as well. So that gives that really gives the responsibility back to the actual education institution to actually scrutinize. You don't want a bad student. You don't want a not genuine student to come to your university or colleges, because if they get their COE cancelled, then bad luck. That's 1 quarter taken off. So that basically giving out the responsibility back to the education providers to actually select their international students carefully, because you don't want to do that, otherwise you lose a quarter there. So there's exemptions down here. So exemption, as I said, I've been going through with that, schools, research, PhD, ELICOS, and all the others, so that those one won't be counted. Now I wanted to draw your attention back to the genuine student requirement. Why do I say that? Because although direction 111 doesn't specifically telling you that there's a genuine student requirement in there. However, it's a different clause within the actual student visa requirement categories. All right, that means passing direction 111, then you will still need to pass the genuine student requirements. So a lot of people think that, oh, if I pass Ministerial Direction 111, then I should be able to get the visa. No, that's not the case. For example, if you're even exempted, if you're applying for ELICOS, all right, although that's exempted from, because Direction 111 is merely just controlling the numbers, okay? It's not taking on to the actual genuineness of the actual international students. So even if you take an ELICOS courses, English courses, although it's exempted, there's no quota that means it's unlimited. But then you will still need to show that you are a genuine student. All right, and I've done a specific video explaining genuine student requirements, basically talking about your previous studies, so all your background history. Why do you want to come to Australia to study? They need to check that out. For example, if you're mid-age, 35 years of age, and you purely want to come to Australia just to study English for 1 year, and that's suspicious. Why do you want to do that? I mean, if you're in that age, usually you will have family, right? You have family, you get kids, you usually required to go to work to actually make a living. Then why do you want to come to Australia for a whole year to study English? That doesn't make any sense. How are you going to sustain your family back home? So then you need to tell every single one of these issues: previous study, your current enrollments, and that employments, and that reflect back to the reason why you want to take in the courses. So circumstances, that's exactly home country. You get family. If you got kids, you need to tell them. Economic circumstances. Now, if you make it wealthy, all right, you're showing your bank statement. There's millions in there. You don't need to go employment, and you basically want to improve your English via coming to Australia, then well, that's reasonable then. All right, and then you need to write that all in: situation back home, potential situation in Australia. You need to state why you don't need to work, because I've got, you know, a couple million in the bank, putting into a term deposit. So I got every month I got some sort of investment returns. I don't need to rely on going into employment or jobs. And the value of the courses, why do you want to study it? Okay, and the history of your immigrations. So again, just wanted to stress out. Now, today's video is all about updating how the student visa actually works. There has been query from the education providers going back to the Department of Education and Department of Immigration, how they actually count towards quotas on the confirmation enrollment. So again, if they identify that the student is not genuine, they basically you waste numbers of quotas. And so what does that mean to us? That means all the education providers in Australia, starting from 2025, will really scrutinize and selecting international students very carefully. Now that's a good thing, because that actually raises the quality of education, and also you would like to have a good classmates, right? You like to have a better classmate around you, and that's the good thing about it. But the other thing is, if you're not prepared, it's no longer. I understand there's still agents out there bluntly just promoting colleges, courses, programs without telling clients that there's such scrutinizing tools and policies implemented. Then if you just bluntly lodge a visa application, I think you will basically waste two things. One is your time, and the other thing is your money. Anyways, if you have more question query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.